I didn't think it would actually happen. It started as a joke in our group chat, one of those midnight ideas that should have stayed buried in sleep-deprived sarcasm. Ben sent a link to a Reddit post. Squid Game IRL, who's down? Of course it was a joke. Of course. Except by the next day, he had already booked a remote property up north, some half-abandoned summer camp near the edge of the state line. The kind with peeling paint, sagging bunkhouses, and no cell signal. Perfect for immersion, he said. We laughed, called him crazy, and agreed to come. There were 6 of us: Ben, Marcus, Liz, Rachel, Jonah, and me. Old high school friends who had drifted apart after college. This trip was meant to be a reunion. Some drinks, dumb games, memories. But Ben had other plans. He brought masks. The triangle, the square, the circle, made them himself out of black mesh and red spray paint. They looked almost real. Too real. He brought speakers, a megaphone, and spray-painted Player 1 through Player 6 onto thrifted tracksuits. We all laughed about it as he passed them out, half drunk on cheap beer and nostalgia. This isn't just for fun, Ben said, lowering his voice. We're doing it for money, like the real game. We thought he was kidding, until he pulled out a metal lockbox filled with stacks of bills. I don't know how much was in there, but it was a lot more than any of us expected. All of us stopped laughing. He grinned. $50 to enter. Real cash prize. Last one standing wins the whole thing. That night, under the dull moonlight and surrounded by overgrown pines, we played the first round. Red light, green light. It was fun, honestly. We rigged a Bluetooth speaker to play the creepy song from the show. Liz acted as the doll, standing on a tree stump, calling out the colors while we ran and froze in exaggerated poses. We laughed, fell over, teased Jonah when he tripped. When Rachel fake-tackled Marcus, they both rolled into the bushes, howling. At the end of the game, Ben clapped. Nice. But tomorrow, it gets harder. We thought he meant the rules, not the stakes. The next morning, Rachel was gone. At first we thought she went for a walk, or maybe back to the car, but her things were still in the bunkhouse. Her phone, her wallet, even her shoes. Liz was the first to get nervous. Guys, this isn't funny. She's not answering. Ben was calm, too calm. She probably just left. She hated horror stuff. She wouldn't leave without telling me, Liz snapped. We searched the area, calling out, combing through the woods, the nearby gravel road, even checking the lake. Nothing, not a sign of her. Ben insisted we wait until dark. If she doesn't show up by morning, we'll call someone. Except none of us had service, not even a single bar. Jonah tried climbing onto the roof of the dining hall with his phone, but he slipped halfway up and sprained his ankle. He spent the rest of the day icing it with cold beers from the cooler. When night fell, Liz demanded we leave. I agreed. But the car was gone. Not just Rachel's, all the cars, even mine. The gravel road leading into the property had tire tracks going in both directions, but no sign of any vehicles. It was like someone had driven them away while we were sleeping. Or worse, while we were awake and just didn't notice. Ben shrugged. Looks like someone's trying to raise the stakes. That was when we realized someone else was out there. And they were playing a very different game. We didn't sleep that night. Liz sat on the edge of her bunk, staring at the door like something was going to burst through it. Jonah was curled up with his injured ankle, groaning every few minutes. Marcus tried to make jokes, but they died in his throat. I just kept thinking about the cars, about Rachel, about how the air suddenly felt wrong, too still, like the trees outside were listening. At some point around dawn, the speaker crackled to life. The one we'd used for red light, green light. It screeched with feedback, then a distorted voice spoke. Round 2 begins in 15 minutes. Players must gather near the clearing. Late arrivals will be eliminated. We froze. Ben? Liz whispered. That's not funny. But Ben looked pale, paler than I'd ever seen him. He opened his mouth and closed it again. Then he shook his head. That wasn't me. Jonah started yelling, saying this had gone too far, limped to the equipment shed to find the speaker system. But it was locked. Padlocked. Someone had moved it. And not just the speaker. The entire control box was missing. I didn't want to believe what was happening. I couldn't. We tried to leave even on foot, but the gravel road was blocked. A huge branch had been dragged across it, like not just a tree that fell. This had been placed and nailed down with sharpened sticks like stakes. Someone was toying with us. With no other options, we went to the clearing. 6 metal folding chairs stood in a circle. In the center, a single white envelope with the words Round 2 printed in blocky red font. Ben picked it up with shaking hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Trust is a game. One of you is lying. The others must vote. Choose the fake. If you get it right, you move on. If you're wrong. No instructions after that? Just an ink stamp in the bottom corner shaped like a mask. Jonah lost it. He accused Ben. Ben shot back that Jonah had disappeared last night for a full hour. Liz accused me, saying she saw me go out to the woods when everyone else was asleep. They were all yelling. I couldn't even remember why I'd walked out that night. I thought I just needed air, but now I couldn't be sure. When the yelling ended, everyone was staring at the folded slips of paper in the bowl. Our votes. 3 votes for Jonah. Jonah laughed bitterly. You idiots. Then he turned and walked into the woods. None of us told him to stop. Ben said he was probably in on it, that he'd come back when he realized we weren't playing anymore. But deep down, I think we all knew. Jonah wasn't coming back. That night, we barricaded the doors of the bunkhouse and kept a fire going until dawn. The speaker didn't say anything. The woods didn't either. But I swear, I heard footsteps just outside the cabin, crunching, slow, circling, someone or something, walking in a wide, careful ring. I pressed my ear to the wall. Nothing. Then, 3 slow knocks on the door. No one moved. No one spoke. Just 3 knocks. Like a heartbeat. Then silence. We didn't open the door. No one slept. When morning came, we found something nailed to the front of the bunkhouse. A piece of paper, like before. Same thick white cardstock. Same red block letters. Round 3 begins in 10 minutes. One of you will not return. That's all. No explanation. No rules. Just that. We stood in silence, looking at each other like strangers. No one said it, but we were all thinking the same thing. Someone is doing this to us, but who? We were the only ones here. No phone signal, no working Wi-Fi, and the landline in the mess hall had been ripped from the wall. Ben wanted to leave again. We'll hike through the woods, south, screw the road. But Marcus just shook his head. We don't know how far they've blocked it. And whoever they are, they want us to scatter. Or maybe they want us to stay put, I said. We ended up going back to the clearing, just like they wanted. The chairs were gone. Now there was a table, a simple picnic table covered with 10 cups, paper ones, like the kind you'd find at a kid's birthday party. Next to the cups was another note. 9 are safe, 1 is not. You must each drink. Ben backed up immediately. Number no way I'm drinking anything left out here. But Marcus, surprisingly calm, picked up a cup and downed it in one smooth motion. If we wait, they'll come for us anyway. We watched him for 30 seconds. Nothing happened. So one by one, we picked up a cup and drank. The taste was faintly sweet, like cheap lemonade. I tried not to think about what might be in it. Liz drank last, and then we waited. No announcement, no sirens, just the breeze. The trees creaked around us. Maybe it was a bluff, Ben whispered. That's when Liz collapsed. She didn't scream, just crumpled to the ground like her strings were cut, her eyes wide open, staring at nothing. We all rushed to her, shaking her, yelling. She was breathing, but shallow, faint. Her pulse thudded under her skin like it was barely there. There was a small white note tucked under her cup. We hadn't seen it before. She will sleep for now. She chose wrong. That night, we carried Liz back to the bunkhouse. She didn't wake up once, just shallow breaths and occasional murmurs that didn't sound like words. None of us wanted to be alone. So we stayed in the common room, lying on the floor in sleeping bags, waiting for the next round. At 1:12 a.m., the lights in the ceiling flickered, even though the power was supposed to be off. The speaker crackled. A new voice this time. Female. Flat. Robotic. Round 4 begins at sunrise. Be ready. Then silence again. I looked at Ben and Marcus, and they were both already staring at me, like I might be the next one. I didn't sleep. None of us did. The air in the bunkhouse was too thick with dread. Every creak of the old wooden floor felt like a warning. Every time the wind brushed against the windows, we tensed like something was about to crash through. Liz was still breathing, but she hadn't opened her eyes. She twitched now and then, whispered something under her breath. Once I thought I heard my name. At sunrise, the door to the bunkhouse opened on its own. It didn't creak. It didn't swing gently. It opened smoothly, intentionally. We stepped outside together, all 5 of us now. No one said it aloud, but we were walking like people headed to a funeral. The table was gone. This time, a wall of crates had been stacked into a loose maze in the clearing. There were ropes strung across the trees above, like something between a jungle gym and a trap. On one crate was a mounted walkie-talkie. It crackled. Then the voice again. Round 4. Find the red key. Only one exists. You have 7 minutes. You may not speak. There was a buzzing noise from somewhere behind the trees. Loud, electric, mechanical. Something had been powered on. Go, said the voice. Now. We ran. The rules were simple. No speaking. Find the red key. 7 minutes. But almost immediately, I realized something was wrong. There were too many places to hide the key. It was a trap, a distraction, a way to keep us moving while something else happened. Ben opened one of the crates and immediately screamed. Not loud, a short, tight sound, cut off by his hand over his own mouth. But I saw what he saw. A recorder, just like the one from round 2, and playing on repeat. You are being watched. You are being watched. You are... The voice cut off as Ben slammed the lid shut. I turned to Marcus. He was climbing the ropes above, ducking through them like he'd done this before. Then he froze. I followed his gaze. There was someone standing at the edge of the trees. Not one of us. Tall, still, dressed in a dark hooded jacket, their face obscured completely by a smooth white mask, like a porcelain doll. No eyes, just a painted smile. Then another figure stepped out beside the first. Then a third. All identical. None of them moved. I wanted to scream. Wanted to tell the others to run, but I couldn't. The rules said no speaking. I didn't know what would happen if we did, and I wasn't ready to find out. Then Ben raised a small red object in his hand. The key. He had it. The masked figures disappeared. Just gone. Not walking away. Not retreating into the trees. Just vanished. The walkie-talkie crackled again. Well done. Round 4 complete. We didn't celebrate. We didn't speak until we were back inside with the door shut tight. And then Marcus said the words we were all thinking. None of us hid that key. Ben looked pale, shaking. It was under the floorboard of the crate, taped there, like it had been waiting. That night, Liz woke up for a few seconds. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused. She looked right at me and said, "They don't like cheaters." Then her eyes rolled back. She was asleep again. We should have left. Even Marcus said it, and he was the one who had pushed hardest for the whole real-life Squid Game weekend. But by then, leaving didn't feel like an option. Our cars wouldn't start. Phones weren't charging. The cabin's landline gave nothing but static. And worst of all, Liz had gone missing again. We woke up to find her bed empty, the sheets twisted on the floor like she'd slipped out mid-nightmare. No note, no sound, no sign she had ever come back to consciousness after her warning. And the door? Still bolted from the inside. No one spoke for a long time. We just sat around the kitchen table listening to the wind scratch against the windows and waiting for the next round. At noon, it came. Not a voice this time, a knock. A single knock at the cabin door. Then silence. I opened it. There, nailed to the frame, was a strip of paper. Thick, yellowed, like something torn from an old instruction manual. Round 5. Don't be the last one holding the box. That was it. No time limit. No instructions. Just that. As we stood there trying to decipher it, a loud chime rang out, like a school bell. A soft, electric hum followed. Then, on the porch beside the door, we saw it. A box, about the size of a shoebox. Matte black. No lock, no seams. Marcus picked it up without hesitation, holding it in both hands. Well, he muttered, I guess I'm it. We all flinched. Put it down, Ben hissed. We don't even know what it is. But Marcus just shook his head. The game's already started, and we're not supposed to be the last one holding it, right? I don't know why we played along. Maybe we were sleep-deprived. Maybe we were scared. Or maybe deep down, we knew this wasn't something we could fight, only survive. We passed the box like it was a hot potato. 15 seconds each. Sometimes more. No one wanted it. But no one wanted to be the one who had it when the game ended. Whenever that would be. Ben cracked first. He dropped the box during one pass and ran outside. We followed, yelling, begging him to come back, but he was already halfway across the clearing, heading for the woods. Then the chime rang again, and the box vanished, right out of Marcus's hands. He stared at his empty palms in disbelief, mouthing, "What the hell?" Then we heard Ben scream. It was far away, distant but unmistakable. Not the kind of scream you make when you trip or get scared. The kind that sounds like it's being torn out of you. We found him 10 minutes later, standing in the trees, alive, but wrong. His eyes were wide, unfocused. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. Just stood there, trembling, like a puppet whose strings had been stretched too thin. We tried to move him. He didn't resist. He just walked with us, silent and glassy-eyed, back to the cabin. Once there, he sat in a corner, hugging his knees, staring at nothing. He hasn't spoken since. The box never came back. We haven't opened the door since nightfall. But I know something's coming. Marcus keeps watching the woods, Jess won't stop crying, and I keep replaying Liz's words in my head. They don't like cheaters. We didn't cheat. But someone did. We didn't sleep. Not a second. The cabin lights flickered on and off all night, like the forest was breathing through the wiring. At some point, Jess just stopped responding, sitting on the edge of the couch, arms locked around her chest like she was holding herself in place. Ben was still catatonic. Marcus sat by the window, staring at nothing, whispering numbers to himself, over and over again. 1 through 6, then silence, then again. 1 through 6. It was 4:03 a.m. when the door opened by itself. No knock, no wind. It just creaked inward like someone had pushed it gently, or like it was never truly closed. Outside was pitch black, not the kind of black you get in rural woods. This was heavier, a thickness that swallowed up the porch light and turned the trees into looming shapes that didn't feel like trees anymore. Then something stepped forward. Not a person. I can't describe it well. Imagine a man wearing the idea of a human, the way shadows sometimes form faces you almost recognize. It had arms, legs, a head, but none of them moved right, like joints placed in the wrong spots, like it hadn't rehearsed being alive. It didn't speak. It just raised one long, pale hand and pointed at us, then pointed at the box. The box was back, sitting in the center of the room like it had never left. Marcus was the first to react. He screamed, a full, guttural sound I didn't know a human could make, and then charged the box like it had personally betrayed him. He kicked it, threw it, punched it. But it never made a sound. It didn't even budge. Then he dropped to his knees and started sobbing. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. Until Jess stood up. Her face had gone completely still. She walked toward the box and, without hesitation, placed her hand on top. I cheated, she said. Her voice was hollow. None of us understood. Until she looked at us, tears spilling freely now. Red light, green light. That first night, I moved. The room felt like it tilted. Marcus stopped sobbing. Ben blinked once, the first time in hours. Jess smiled a sad, small smile. I moved, but no one saw. I thought, it didn't count. Then the lights blew out, and in that split second of darkness, before we could scream or run or even breathe, there was a sound, a sigh, low, like the forest exhaling through the cracks in the wood. When the lights flicked back on, Jess was gone. The box, too. Just me, Marcus, and Ben. Ben sat up slowly, looked around, and started crying, like he'd just woken up from a long, black sleep. We left the cabin at dawn. The cars worked again. The phones had signal. We didn't speak on the drive home. Marcus and I, we never saw Jess again. Never told anyone what really happened. On paper, she's a missing person. Just another young woman who vanished in the woods. I wish that were true. Sometimes I still hear the chime when the room is too quiet, when the lights flicker for no reason. Sometimes I still dream of the box sitting in the center of an empty room. I never touched it. But the game doesn't forget, and I don't think it's over. Not yet.